What's going on, everyone? We are the Cinefanatics. This is the Marquee. My name's Robert Adams.
And I'm Chris Adams.
And yeah, in celebration of The Little Mermaid coming out this weekend, it is time to tier rank and finally put some grades to these movies, these live-action Disney remakes. We're gonna make sure they fully understand where they deserve to be in the pantheon of films.
In celebration of The Little Mermaid, we're gonna dump on some Disney films.
That's right.
What a celebration.
Woohoo! Yay! Another live-action remake has been made. Okay.
Not Atlantis. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I still need to watch that cartoon. After I'm done with going through all the Clone Wars and Rebels, since I have to catch up before Ahsoka, I'll move on to Atlantis?
The Lost Empire.
Yeah.
Atlantis.
Yeah. I was like, I could have sworn we just got Atlantis when we saw the Little Mermaid remake. That being said, they did not actually refer to that as Atlantis like they did in the cartoon.
Nah, too many places are Atlantis now.
I mean, let's be honest. Any movie that has an underground city is Atlantis or Otagunga.
Underwater city? Underground city would be El Dorado. Underwater city would be Atlantis.
Yes, sorry. Underwater Atlantis, yes. So, anyways, I know. Thank you, Garth. You heard my joke from weeks ago. Just like in Little Mermaid, most of these movies should be under the sea.
Well, now I have to rewrite the pun that I was going to put in the chat poll for that. Thanks, Garth.
It's okay. I made that pun weeks ago. So.
No, you know what? Y'all get to suffer the same pun. I don't care.
Anyways, real quick. So again, we are talking about live action Disney remakes. There is a movie that came out yesterday, whatever.
This weekend.
I'm going to say this and just be super nice about it. Spoilers.
For a remake of a movie that came out the year I was born.
It's the same joke that we made in the review, which if you haven't seen our review for The Little Mermaid, make sure you go check that out after we're done here, even though we're going to give our letter grade opinion of The Little Mermaid, so you'll have kind of an idea anyways, but go see our actual thoughts. And then also the joke was also made on the tagline this past Wednesday that it's not really spoilery. This movie came out in 1989 originally. It's the same story, so not really spoilers, but
came out the year I was born.
Yeah. Came out the same year you came out. Well, I mean,
no.
That means something different nowadays.
Yeah. Came out of my mom's womb.
It arrived the same time you arrived.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's jump into we got a lot of things to cover real quick before we actually get through this. Y'all know how this works. YouTube things, streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. Y'all have any questions, comments, issues, complaints, or you could do like what Commentatoring Nerd has done, and if you want to send us your ranking, we'll read that off at the very end of the stream. So yeah, send your ranks in, and we'll cover those towards the end. Also, patreon.com/cinefanatics. If you feel like we are worth your support, hop on the tier that you can afford. Don't put yourself out on it. Just come support us on the tier that is right for you. Fun stuff happening over there. Movie watch-alongs, trivia, hangouts. And also, we'll be mentioning at the end of this stream what our marquee is for next month. It's a doozy. Yeah. I cannot wait. That one is going to be a party. So, anyways, what else do we have to cover? That's all the YouTube things. Let's cover what we are ranking tonight. So, for those of y'all that may not be a part of our Patreon. If you are a part of our Patreon, even at the $1 tier, you get access to our Cinefanatics Discord, and typically we'll post the list of movies that we are ranking on there. So you have opportunity to watch whatever movies you may want to watch if you want to participate live like we're doing tonight. Here's the movies that we are tier ranking. It's 15 movies. So again, this is referred to as a live action Disney remake. I know some people were saying like Peach Dragon. Peach Dragon was a live action movie to begin with. I know because I was obsessed with that movie as a kid. Elliot the Dragon was animated. So
yeah. So basically what we're doing is we're ranking the movies that were animated first in our live action and their remakes here.
Yes. And then I also know there might be some questions in regards to Maleficent and Cruella, as they are not a direct translation of Sleeping Beauty or 101 Dalmatians, respectively. They are reimaginings of the origins of the villain before the movie takes place. And they do have ties to the actual movies that they're remaking. So that's why they're included on here. But movies like, say, Christopher Robin, that takes place after Winnie the Pooh, is not. So, anyways, that is all 15 movies that we will be tier ranking. So, you got your list jotted down. Awesome. Let's jump into the rules. Is Johnny available for the rules tonight? Have we had Johnny come back?
I think so. I think he's available.
All right, Johnny, take it away.
All right, you knuckleheads, tonight's rules are going to be at least 2 films per tier, and 3 tiers can have 3 films. I want to challenge you to put them in S, A, and B. It's going to be so hard for you. Johnny, are you okay? I think he passed out.
Oh, okay.
I think he passed out.
Anyways, so that's the rules for tonight.
Yeah.
Otherwise, let's go ahead and get this thing started. Let's bring on Carl. Carl, set us up. There we go. There is the marquee board. For those of y'all who do not know what we are doing here, this is a marquee board. It is tier ranking. If you're familiar with tier ranking, we start with the letter S and go all the way down to F. S standing for superb or special, and F for F that movie. That one will probably get a lot of usages tonight, just given the subject.
Well, at least 2.
At least 2, according to the rules. Maybe 3. Who knows? Again, I want everyone to keep in mind with these rankings, we are tier ranking these movies against one another. I'm not sitting here trying to tier rank the 2019 Lion King up against Godzilla or Citizen Kane or Shawshank Redemption.
Or even the 1994 Lion King.
Or even, why did I jump to all these other movies? That should have been better. But yeah, just keep that in perspective that, like, even if it's S tier in this, that still doesn't mean it's a great movie, but it's just the better of the ones that we have to choose from here. Also, I don't know who else is. I know we got like a couple of, I see Garth in the chat, Tori's in the chat. Those of y'all that are moderators in the chat, please keep an eye out because we won't be able to pay attention. I'm wanting people to be very respectful in the chat. Will not tolerate any kind of comments that are not respectful. Those of y'all who know what I'm talking about, thank you. Anyways, moving on. First movie we're going to start off with is the original 1996, well, not original, but the original remake, 101 Dalmatians, starring Glenn Close. And Chris, go ahead and kick us off with that.
All right, so this is one that I actually just watched again last night for the first time in a very long time. I mean, we're talking decades here. I saw this when I was a kid, and that was the last time I saw this. It's been that long. This movie came out in the 90s and was very much a product of its time for sure. Upon rewatch, I initially had a positive view of this movie. Upon rewatch, I just kind of felt okay with it. You know, it didn't stick with me or hit me as hard this time as I seem to remember thinking it did. As an adaptation of the cartoon into live action, I think it does a fairly decent job. I think, it hits all the right notes. But I guess maybe in that case, it might just be my opinion of the story in general. Though I care that much about the 101 Dalmatian story, I don't know. But I will say, and here's something I will say this. I'm going to try to do this with every single movie tonight. I'm going to try to find at least one thing positive to say. Even the movies that I very much am putting in the F tier, I'm going to try to find something positive to say about them as well. This movie, I think it's hands down impossible to say that Glenn Close did a terrible job. That's like you can't do that. Glenn Close was the perfect cast for Cruella here, and I think just her playing that role elevates this movie but higher than it probably otherwise would have been. I don't know if you cast anybody else in that role, and this movie does as well. So let me bring up my list so I can remember exactly where I put it here. Let's see, it's S, I got the A, I got the B, I got it in my B tier. It is kind of middle of the road for me, lower B tier for me. I did 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, so I got 3 movies in B tier, and it's at the bottom for me.
Yeah. So I did the same thing. I had to rewatch this movie recently. Just here's the thing, like when rewatching the movies, especially like this is a movie I hadn't watched since like the 90s. I turned on this movie, and right after the Disney logo at the beginning, which was like that 90s classic logo, so that was awesome. Right after that, it jumps into like the title sequence and everything with this movie, and it just hits you like a big powered fan that you're turning on right in front of your face. It hits you like a hurricane. The 90s nostalgia of this movie, the music that plays, the look, the camera angles, the feel, like it has very hardcore 90s. This is the same thing I see like in Home Alone or Home Alone 2, the Santa Claus, any other like family friendly movies in the 90s. They all had the same kind of feel to it, and I love it. Like I just want to like bathe in it because it just reminds me of a happier, simpler time.
Do you want to bathe in it like a vat of molasses?
No. This is a very fun 90s nostalgia throwback. I think it translates the story very well. This is a very good remake. Excellent casting, story, everything's great with this. My only complaint is it gets a little tad slow into that third act, which makes sense. This is roughly around the part of the movie where the humans really don't matter, and it's all about the dogs, the animals running around. So we're not getting like any real dialogue or anything. I also will state one of the positives of this movie is all the animals are real. There's no CGI animals. These were all like trained Hollywood. Well, okay, no. There was some CGI in regards to that one puppy that was always like aloof or whatever.
There's definitely CGI at the end.
Okay,
they were all acting funky when they saw Cruella in the video game.
Oh yeah. I mean, for the most part in the movie, these are trained animals. This isn't like Lion King where there are absolutely no real animals and they're all CGI.
Got him.
God damn it. This is going to be a long freaking episode.
Doesn't have to be.
That being said,
where are you putting it?
All the animals emoted very well. I got this. Yeah, I got this in an A. That's A tier for me.
Ooh. Which is interesting because right now the chat is split. The majority votes are split between A and B, which means theoretically speaking, you could go off of a 2A, 2B type situation there. Which, I don't know, math-wise. Oh, look, an extra vote for A. I always love it when the chat jumps in right as I'm saying that, too. Like, y'all can't wait, like, another minute. Actually, I don't want you to wait another minute. You're doing great, chat. I love y'all. Y'all are doing fantastic, and I appreciate every single one of you.
Thank y'all for being here.
All right.
Okay, so the chat says A.
A, so you got 2 A's and a B right now.
Okay, so it's going the end of A.
Our chat does go by majority vote. If there's a tie, I will split the tie up. That way ties don't hold us back and keep us from moving on for too long. We'll do the math on ties, but otherwise, if there's a majority, we will go with the majority.
Yeah, because I'm not trying to spend like 3 hours tier ranking movies over
here. And this is why I'm gonna do the math on it, you knuckleheads.
Anyways, next movie. Moving on to man, we just jumped from 1996 to 2010.
Oh yeah.
Going with Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. We're gonna start with me. So this movie is super messy. Like there's just so much going on all over the place. No, I don't feel like it has as cohesive a storyline as the original cartoon did. It diverges away from the original movie and just doesn't feel that much fun, which I understand. Granted, like say you've got Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter. If this was to be an exact translation of the original movie, that means Johnny Depp would be in this movie for all of like 3 minutes, and then we would never see him again. So, because they casted Johnny Depp, he needed to be like one of the main stars of this movie, and so therefore the Mad Hatter's just all over the place in this movie, and that didn't need to be. So don't cast Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter and then expect him to be like in 80% of the movie. Some of the casting, otherwise the casting was fine. I do like Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter, just not the amount of screen time that he was given for that. And then everything else is just, again, weirdly out of place. It's just kind of strange. So I do have this as my first F. I did not enjoy watching this. It was a pain to get through.
Wow. Yeah, I watched this, I believe, once, maybe twice in my life. I don't really remember much from it for how it processed through the story. And a part of that I attribute to the fact that I saw it in the theater in 3D because this came out back around the same time like Avatar came out. This was during the 3D craze as soon as 3D started hitting the theaters again in the more recent times. And so it was one of those like, oh yeah, Tim Burton did Alice in Wonderland. First of all, sounds like a great fit. Sounds dope. I'll go see that. And yeah, we're going to see it in 3D because this is going to be trippy and crazy and wild in 3D. And it was so dark. The 3D did not translate. This is one of those movies where like Avatar shot in 3D. This movie was, I think, translated to 3D. I think it was shot regularly. And then I forget what the term is, but it was like adapted to 3D basically. Mm-hmm. And whenever movies did that, back when 3D started coming out again, it always made the film a lot harder to visually take in, to see. It was darker. It was really dark, is what I'm saying. And that turned me off completely to it. On top of that, I just couldn't wrap myself into it as much. But if I am going to try to find a positive here, I will say that this should be and was visually, the visuals that I could see, an excellent movie for Tim Burton to take on. I think Alice in Wonderland is a fantastic property for Tim Burton. I think it was actually a good fit for Tim Burton. And visually speaking, I think it was very striking when I could see it. So I will say that as a positive. However, this movie I do have in the C tier. It's a lower C tier for me. There's like movies I found to be much worse here on this list, but it just didn't gel with me as much.
Yeah. What you did say did remind me of something. And I've told you this before as well. When Tim Burton took this on, my original idea of how this should look visually was very much like, for those of y'all who remember this, that video game American McGee's Alice that is just really like dark and gothic with the creepy looking Cheshire Cat or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's what I was expecting this movie to visually be compared to. I wanted something that was darker. When you hear Tim Burton and he's putting his take on a classic like this, that's what I'm expecting. Granted, they didn't do that because this is supposed to be Disney's. So it's still Tim Burton dark, but it's brighter because it's Disney. So everything has to still be bright colors and happy and not as dark and gothic and creepy as American McGee's Alice. I would love to see a live action American McGee's Alice though. So
yeah.
What do we have the chat saying?
We got audience poll at D tier. So CD, you said F?
Yeah.
CDF.
Yeah,
so
that was easy.
D.
Thank you, everyone involved, for making that work just so well.
Woo. Lego says she loved that video game. And not just because she looked like that Alice. Why am I not surprised by this?
I can actually, now that you say that, I could see that. Like, do you have you cosplay as that, Alice? Because I bet that's awesome looking.
This might be one of the least surprising things I've ever seen Lego say.
Yeah. I do want to go back and address the chat. I do see everyone's comments on there. Jeremy Miller was like Johnny Depp. Yeah, he was very hard to take in that movie. I do see Christopher Steichleather. Haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back.
Been a minute.
See that you're here. This goes down the hole. Funny. All right, so moving on to the next one. Going back to Chris, we're going to go with 2015's Cinderella.
Oh, I'm getting the poll ready over here too. This one I'm actually going to do. Well, no, we're going to keep consistent on the poll. I'm just going to have to probably do a second poll on this one. As you guys have noticed, I've been doing the poll a little bit differently tonight. William Harold in the chat clued me into how to do the poll tonight. I think he was absolutely correct on this, in that usually we do S, A, B, and then C through F, since you can only have 4 options, and then run another poll if it's C through F. We're kind of flipping the script tonight, you guys might have noticed, where it's S through B and then C, D, F, because I feel like that's going to process the poll along a lot quicker.
Gee, I wonder why.
It just feels like it's going to be a lot quicker to do it that way tonight for some reason. Yeah. That being said, this one I believe should be probably an SAB, because this is one of my favorites on the list. I did recently watch this one for this Marquee. I missed it before when it came out. And a lot of people usually do comment that this is one of those live action remakes that is actually on the better end. A lot of people say that this is one of the ones that they actually favor or like. And this, for me, I think I've mentioned this before. I probably mentioned this in our Little Mermaid review. This, to me, is an example of one of those few Disney live action remakes where I will probably go to the live action version over the animated version. It doesn't happen that often. There's definitely a lot of the animated movies on this list, and I'll probably bring it up when we get to them, that I will prefer to go and watch those instead of the live action remake. This is the one that I think I will actually watch the live action remake whenever I want to watch Cinderella again, because I think they absolutely nailed it with this one. Everybody involved, Lily James, Cate Blanchett, it's just the whole thing. Just the whole thing is great. I mean, I have my positive for this movie. I just put performances, because honestly, like, there's so much to say about this movie on the positive side that I could be here all day kind of speaking about the positive aspects of this movie. So I'll just say the performances in it were perfect. I think the people they casted filled in those roles excellently. They filled in the glass slipper excellently. And for me, this is easily one of my S tiers on this list.
S tier. All right. I do like that you were saying that, like, this will be the one if I want to watch Cinderella, I'm probably gonna watch this. And I'm just picturing you're like at work, like, all right, guys, time to go home after a long, hard day of work. What are you doing tonight, Chris? Man, I think I'm gonna go home and treat myself to Cinderella. Like, okay.
Listen.
I mean, people do that. Don't get me wrong. I just think it's a funny sounding phrase.
Treat myself to some Cinderella.
Get myself some Cinderella. Anyway, well, that did not sound
not
right.
Need the grunt at the end.
No, did not need
not
that.
Need the grunt.
That was a mistake. I apologize on behalf of everyone's ears for that.
Way too much.
Yeah, just a bit. I will say this, in my opinion, this is one of the more faithful adaptations. The only, like, the slight changes that they made to this movie, first of all, the changes they made were to make the overall feel of this movie less animated. What do I mean by that? The mice. They took away, like, most of the interactions that you get out of the cartoon mice that are sitting there talking to each other constantly, as if they're also main characters right along Cinderella. Like, the mice even sing a song in the original movie. So they took away that to kind of, like, root it a little bit more, while the mice and the other animals are still there and still doing their animal things. They're not as characters as the original cartoon movie is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily bad, but it's one of the few changes, and I think it's an okay change for that. great acting overall, especially Cate Blanchett. Cate Blanchett is Lady Tremaine in this movie. She does phenomenal.
Has anyone ever uttered the phrase Cate Blanchett did terrible in that movie?
No, I don't know of a single movie that Cate Blanchett's in that I'm like, I did not like Cate Blanchett in that. That movie would have been fine if it wasn't for the Cate Blanchett of it. So
I don't think anyone's ever said that phrase.
No. It's like, how dare you? Anyways, yeah, so I think this is one of the more faithful. I graded it as an A. Mainly because I'm not really like a guy that's into Cinderella. Not that I'm like this big muscle-bound.
Oh, so you're not secure in your masculinity, is what I'm hearing. Okay,
I'm just not interested in Cinderella.
Sure, yeah, okay.
But it is a good adaptation of it, and I agree. If I'm going to watch Cinderella again, I'll probably do this one over the cartoon. Also, Lily James is amazing. So,
like the product placement of the glass Crocs.
The glass Crocs. Ugh. Why the hell was Cate Blanchett in that movie? Yeah.
She did it for family members, probably.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I have it as an A. So you put it in S. I put it in A. What's the
chat is leaning A.
All right. So high end of A. So it's going to put it over 101.
It's over 100. We're ranking that many movies? Good Lord.
Yep. So we're going to be here for like 5 weeks.
Woo-wee.
Yeah, you can say that again.
Okay. Woo-wee.
Oh, God, really? You know how old that joke is?
It's old as Cinderella.
It's as old as a tale as old as time.
Oh,
Beauty and the Beast.
We did that on purpose.
No, I didn't. I did it, but it just happened to work that way.
You should have just accepted it. Should have been like, yeah, I did do that on purpose.
I'm going to be honest about it. I didn't think of that until just now. I'm like, tale as old as time. That's a good one. Yeah, Beauty and the Beast. This is the 2017 remake of Beauty and the Beast, which I thought was serviceable. I thought it was at least a decent remake. The additions to the storyline with involving Belle's mom in this, I mean, I guess it just added a little bit more depth to her character, but I mean, it wasn't really needed, and I don't think it really helped overall. All it did was just kind of like stretch out the runtime and provide maybe like just one other extra little bit of reasoning as to why Belle is all of a sudden falling in love with the Beast. Sure, I guess. You didn't need that in the original cartoon. I don't feel like it was needed here. And then some of the CGI was a little questionable. Specifically, like how they make some of the furniture and the accoutrement around the house talk and act and dance. Lumiere looked a little weird to me. And Cogsworth also was just a little off-putting. But otherwise, wow. I think they did a decent job with this movie. So I don't hate it at all, but yeah, just some things to possibly change. I will also say I'm not a huge fan of Emma Watson as Belle. Just that I feel like that was like, hey, Emma Watson was in that Harry Potter thing years ago. Let's put her in one of our movies because that'll bring
that little Harry Potter thing that happened.
Yeah. So I have this as a B.
Seems like the chat is also going through S through B, so maybe doing the poll this way was not a good idea. Or we're just hitting all the good ones right up front, and we're going to hit all the bad ones here later. But Beauty and the Beast is one of those that I think does float on the better side of the meh line that most of these remakes fall into. It was, yeah, like you said, it was very serviceable. It did what it needed to do. I think there is ample room for it to have been better, but there's probably more room for it to have been worse, if that makes any sense. It was definitely a great adaptation. I think Luke Evans as Gaston was fun. Dan Stevens as Beast, he did a fantastic job. You know what? Look, some people talk about singing. Some people talk about other things. I did not mind Emma Watson as Belle, generally speaking, because in my opinion, she had the look of Belle. She had the look that I'm picturing when I look at the cartoon character, when I look at the animated version, and I try to adapt it into real life. I'm seeing someone who at least roughly looks kind of similar to Emma Watson. She has relatively similar features, is what I'm saying. So as far as adapting the look, I think she had it. A lot of people will claim other aspects of it, like her dress, this, that, and I've seen that on the internet. People saying like her dress wasn't as spectacular or what have you. I don't know if that's really a real flaw or more of a nitpick. The cast, I think overall was great. I think everybody played their parts very well. I was glad to see just a really cool, really neat little ensemble here. So I mean, overall, like, let's see, what's my positive? Oh, production design. Yeah, production design. I think on this was really good. I'm looking at I'm thinking about at the beginning when she's walking through the village and singing the song while walking through the village. I'm looking at the way the village was designed and set up, and it was just I remember this just feeling very much like a really good live action adaptation of what I saw in animation before. Mm-hmm. So in terms of like the production design, adapting it from animation to live action, I think they actually really did a great job here. Overall, though, like you said, again, it was serviceable. It did what it needed to do. I do think it's on the better end of the remakes. I have it lower end of the A tier for me.
Okay, so low A, and I got it in B. Okay. Looking at the chat, seems everyone is not liking the singing. I forgot her singing in this was like,
I don't remember it being bad, but I also just don't remember it in general. So that might be telling.
Yeah, singing. Josh Gad was really good. Josh Gad was good as LeFou. Hermione as a bookworm is kind of perfect. It's true. Yeah. Costumes were amazing. That's true. That one was really good. No one flops like Gaston.
Oh, no. Uh-oh. All right, chat's saying B.
B?
I'm A. Chat's B.
I'm B.
You're B.
So we're going to go high end of B for right now.
No one flops like Gaston. Dust crops like Gaston. Wait, what?
Wow.
I was really stretching to try to find something that rhymed there.
What's that he said that when he was young, he ate like 24 eggs to stay large. Now, as an adult, he eats 5 dozen eggs, so he's roughly the size of a barge. He's the reason that we have an egg shortage. The hell?
Dang it, Gaston. It's all your fault.
It's all Gaston. Maleficent. You get to start this one, Chris.
Oh, yeah. This is one of those that I was like, hey, do I have to watch this? And I was like, yeah, we're going to do it in the Marquee. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll watch this. Pretty settled in my mind, having to never watch the Maleficent movies. And now, I got to be honest, I want to watch the sequel. And
why?
Because I enjoyed this one. I thought it was actually pretty decent. That being said, I am putting it in the B tier. So, here's the way this breaks down for me. S through B, I relatively enjoyed. C through F, so B tier for Maleficent. I think this movie exemplifies what I want to see in a live action Disney movie, which is give me the story. This actually probably did it the most. And this might be what you might not like this part, but this did it the most for me. And it did it in a fun and unique way, which is give me the original story, but do a spin on it. Because if I want to watch the original story, pretty much all the animated versions of these movies are good. They fill the need perfectly fine. There's not really a justifiable, in my mind, reason to have to actually remake any of these in live action other than let's just do it for fun. And so because of that, I want something different from the live action ones. If you're going to give me a movie about the same characters doing the same stuff, do something different with it. And this movie exemplifies the doing something different with it. Probably more so than almost any other movie on this list. And I think that's why I actually ended up kind of enjoying this. I had very low expectations going in because I was like, why do we need a whole movie about Maleficent? Why do we need to do a movie about the villain from Sleeping Beauty? I don't. But by the end of it, I was like, first of all, Angelina Jolie, she seemed to be kind of passionate about this. She didn't just like, for me, it didn't seem like she was just going through the motions in this role. It looks like she actually wanted to be there, which I think helps out a whole lot for this movie. But overall, I find this to be my positive on this. It's an intriguing spin on the Cinderella story, or not Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty story. So that's why I'm putting it in B. That's why I'm putting it in B. I ended up actually kind of enjoying this one.
Okay. As Nerd pointed out in the chat, yes, I got the order on these wrong. So Maleficent did come out before Beauty and the Beast, even though we're talking about it after Beauty and the Beast. So my bad. But
Gasp.
Yeah. Well, that's it for the Marquee. Thanks for y'all for watching. Guess I fucked this one up tonight.
Close the doors. No more Marquees after this. We
we don't deserve to keep running a YouTube channel. Thank y'all for participating.
You guys are taking this a little extreme.
Extreme. Yeah, this movie is just has too weird of a storyline. The changes made to both Maleficent and Stefan in this movie, it's just a little too strange for me. It deviates too much. How much we are supposed to hate Maleficent in the original Sleeping Beauty, but here we're supposed to feel like sympathy for her, and just I don't want to feel sympathy for Maleficent.
Sympathy for the devil.
Pleased to meet you. Yeah, it just, that was too weird, and it just took me out that we're supposed to be feeling bad for her. I don't want to feel bad for her. And then Stefan turns out to be like a dick this entire time, and
kinda.
He was a good father in the original cartoon. I don't like what the story this movie was trying to tell. Angelina Jolie was fantastic as Maleficent, though. That is like the number one biggest, most positive thing I could say about this movie. Even the costuming, like in this image, her in the costume is great. Chef's kiss. They nailed it. She looks good. The acting was fantastic, but
I think that's where the difference between us lies. Somehow you have a connection to Sleeping Beauty, I guess, that a connection that I don't have. So I don't give a flying flip about Stefan not being a good father in this.
I mean, I guess I will honestly say,
I should say
I care about Sleeping Beauty about as much as I care about Cinderella. So that being said, we have seen this kind of movie where we go back and we kind of change up the origin of the villain and show what they were like before the story, or just as the story is going on, running alongside the story. We've seen this in another movie that we will be talking about tonight, and I think that other movie did it way better than this does. I don't like the direction of this. This is also one of my Fs. I could not stand this movie.
I know why I think we both feel that other movie did it better, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But
yeah, obvious what other movie I'm talking about, because it's the only other one on this list that's like that. So,
so I says C. Chat says C on this one.
You said C. Chat says C, and I say F.
I say B.
You said B. They say C, and I'm saying F. So that's gonna be like low C. That's one I think actually is probably just going to hang out in C and could probably bounce back and forth within C for a little while.
It might end up in D. It might end up in B.
But yeah, I'm just going to put it right there for right now. Anyways, moving on. Next one. 2016, The Jungle Book. So starting with me on this, this one kind of like Alice in Wonderland, they changed the storyline wildly. Same basic idea, like protect the man cub and whatnot, but they changed like how they all interact or when they interact and everything. And while they stuck to the basic ideas of each animal, like Baloo, Bagheera, King Louie, all of that, they stay to the ideas of them. They just moved it around how they actually play and where their ideas come into this movie. I don't think it was bad. Unlike Alice in Wonderland, I think the changes that they made to Jungle Book were actually pretty good, and it still worked and fit within the confines of the movie. I will also say this is easily one of the best Jungle Book adaptations. And I say that because there's been hundreds. Like, if you are a movie studio that wants to make movies, apparently it is a rite of passage that you have to remake Jungle Book at some point. Not necessarily the Disney version, but you're at least remaking the original Rudyard Kipling story. So, yeah, this is this is one of the better ones. I think there was one like in the 90s that had Robin Shao from Mortal Kombat was in it as Mowgli, like kind of grown up, so that was weird. But yeah, this is one of the better versions. The CGI on the animals, they get them to emote. They are able to emote, and it looks fine. I don't know what happened, especially because this movie was directed by Jon Favreau. Why the emoting animals didn't continue with the next time that Jon Favreau directs a live action Disney movie. So that was weird. Otherwise, yeah, one of the best book adaptations. CGI animals look great. This is easily an S tier out of all these movies. And I'm not a huge Jungle Book fan either. This is S tier amongst these movies.
Yeah, I was initially going into this thinking it was going to be an S tier for me also. Because as it stands, this is in my opinion one of the better live action animated to live action adaptations that they've done. And I feel like it's one of the examples to go to for how they should be adapting these. The story is there. I don't know necessarily if there were. Well, I take it back. No, there were definitely some changes. I think definitely for sure. I feel like there was changes with like the King Louie character, 100% from what I remember from the animated to this. He had like more of an antagonistic presence in this movie than I remember him having in the animated one. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
There was also some cultural appropriation type things in the original cartoon that they tweaked and they changed for the live action. It made sense. It works.
And that's something I think you're seeing in a lot of these too, because like back in the day when these animated versions originally came out, there were things that kind of flew back then that don't fly now necessarily. Yeah. And it's interesting to see these stories kind of morph and adapt into today's terms based on those things. But yeah, no, as far as this, like, you know, we talk about the performances of like, say the animals here, you talked about the actually emoting in this. I think a lot of that is backed up with the cast as well. This was a stellar cast in this movie, and they all were fantastic. Bill Murray as Baloo, Ben Kingsley as Bagheera. You had Idris Elba as Shere Khan. Scarlett Johansson was Ka. That was an interesting choice.
Christopher Walken as Louie.
Giancarlo Esposito as Wolf. What's Wolf's name?
I don't remember. So the wolf was not a major character in the original cartoon.
Y'all know what I mean.
Yeah. The wolf father.
Father Wolf pack leader. Anyway, I think the cast did a fantastic job. I think they were excellently casted. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, I think just the visual effects, the integration of the real life Mowgli into the CGI environment and with the CGI animals keeping in mind that Mowgli was pretty much about the only real thing in this movie. Obviously, like some pieces, like there might be some like water sections or some trees or something that they might have had be actually real, but just as pieces on the set. But relatively speaking, everything else was, CGI animated. So that I think was actually a huge plus for this movie. All that being said, I was originally thinking this was going to be an S tier, and it was an S tier up until a recent movie.
Oh, come on. Peter Pan and Wendy wasn't that good.
We'll get there. That being said, Jungle Book tops the A tier for me. It slips down to the A tier for me because there's three other movies I put in the S tier. Obviously, Cinderella was one of them.
I think I have an idea of what the other one may be, and I'm kind of impressed and shocked, and I may share the same opinion, possibly. Anyway, so I have S, you have A. How's the chat looking?
Chat is leaning S.
S, okay. Yes, William Harold. He considered Jungle Book S tier, and he's deciding not to put it S tier completely because of Pinocchio.
Yeah. We'll get to the Pinocchio.
Joke. So 2 S's and an A. So I'm gonna put this at the nerds. Don't even joke.
It's not even funny, man.
So I'm gonna put it at the end of S for right now.
Bring it at the end of S. Fair.
Yeah, 2 S's and an A.
Look, I get it. Obviously, I get it. I was gonna have it in S, but
yeah,
man. I just enjoyed another movie a little bit more, it turns out.
All right, well, let's talk about a movie we know every single person on this planet easily loves. Bye! We're going to do this movie instead.
That hurt my ears.
Sorry if y'all are listening on headphones. Lion King.
Listening with your ears.
The 2019 Lion King. Yeah, these movies are slightly out of order because we just went from one Jon Favreau to another. So, yeah, Lion King, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah. F. This is I'm going to be honest with you guys, bottom of the list for me. Very, very tip top bottom. That makes sense?
Yes, and I think it makes sense because this is a movie that was super. There's not a single person on this planet that does not like Lion King. If you don't like Lion King, you need to learn how to have a happy life. I'm just saying.
I just
let happy things happen to you. It's okay.
I talked earlier tonight in regards to Cinderella about watching the animated version versus watching the live action version whenever I want to see the story. For Cinderella, I chose live action. I will go to that live action version over the animated one anytime I want to watch it. This one, the 1994 Lion King, and at this point I'm very sad that I have to make a year distinction here. Leaps and bounds better than this one. And look, God bless Jon Favreau and his hand on many, many different creative things that he's done. He's a very talented filmmaker. I actually love the guy a lot and a lot of things that he's done, especially in the Star Wars side of things. And I will say, because I have to find a positive for all these movies, the visual effects on this, the CGI work is actually good. It does actually look really good. It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous looking movie. And the initial use of the volume to film it, fantastic. That's actually fantastically done.
Yeah.
But the animals show no emotion. And this is my biggest issue with this movie. Mufasa, look, I was sitting in the theater. I was sitting in the theater ready to have my heart ripped out once again with Simba sitting by his dad, batting his paw around, rubbing up against his head, crying because his father died. I was ready. I was like, it's coming. Here it comes. I'm ready. And he was just a normal animal with a normal face. No tears. Nothing. No sad look on his face. He was just a regular animal. And I'm like, I got no emotion from this.
And you
respect the animation, respect the OG where it came from. That's all I ask.
And specifically for that scene, the number one thing that pops up in my head as an example is during that scene when Mufasa is falling off the cliff after Scar throws him. There's a shot of Simba. Look, he's up on a ledge. He's safe, but he's looking down. He's like, no! The camera pans away. His ears are tucked back. His eyes are huge. He's got tears swelling up. That is what I wanted to see. Instead, we got, Dad, are you alive, Dad? Dad, huh? Like no emotion, no. Blank face. Like, no.
Plus, we didn't really get Be Prepared.
Yeah. I'm actually, there's a couple of things here with this. So my notes that I had, terrible emoting. Obviously, everyone says that. Moving on. Same storyline, which is fine. There's a reason this movie's a beloved classic. But the changes made to this movie detract from the movie. I had like two of them down, but I'm just going to click on Nerd's comment up here because he nailed both the two of them and included a third one I forgot about. Beyonce song over Simba running home. No, get that out of here. That song when he's running home is classic. Can You Feel the Love Tonight in Broad Daylight? That's the one I didn't think of, and yeah, that was a little weird. And Be Prepared as a spoken word instead of the song. I love the villain songs in Disney movies, and Be Prepared, in my opinion, is like the epitome of the villain song. Like, just below that is probably Poor Unfortunate Souls. So, like, Be Prepared I love, and yeah, I can't stand the fact that they just did a spoken word thing with it. Like, all the hyenas afterwards are all like...
Also, I don't know if we mentioned this up top. We talked about like our explanation for some of the reasons why some movies are on this list and some movies aren't. We did not mention specifically why The Lion King is staying on this list, despite the fact that it's definitely animation. It's still animation. It's an animated remake. It's not necessarily a live action remake, and it's still staying on this list because it's just part of it's part of them. It is a photorealistic live action looking remake.
Yeah. In general, like, that's the joke that everyone has about this movie. In general, though, this movie is considered a live action remake.
It was. There's aspects of it that were still actually filmed, and I think that's why it's considered live action, is because they actually did use the volume to film. I think there was still like on-set performances to a degree for a lot of these characters. So despite the fact that it was effectively animated, there are still live action elements to the production of this movie. I believe also they said that the very first shot of the film of like the sunrise or what have you is actually a real live action shot from like Africa. So
that's the thing also. When I heard this movie was getting made, all I really wanted to see to convince me, I just want to see the opening number. That's the Circle of Life. Because every time, even now when I watch the cartoon, and again, kind of like what Chris was saying, I'll watch the cartoon. Always. I'll never watch this live action one again. No. But when they were saying that, even watching the cartoon now, I'm in my 40s, I watch it, and I still get like the chills and goosebumps of just how majestic that opening number is. I kind of felt that when I saw the live action version, but nowhere near on the level of what I felt with the animated movie and what I still feel. You can't say this was like, oh, that was back when you were a kid back in 1994 when this movie came out. Even as an adult now, it still resonates with me. So yeah, I have this as a C. It's not complete trash just because most of the story is exactly the same, but
you have it as a C?
C. Yeah.
What?
What is Little John our guest star on here?
No, because like I'm F, and for the first time I think ever, the chat unanimously all voted F tier. I don't think anybody voted any other tier but F. What are you doing?
We're putting this in F then, okay? I'm okay with putting it in F. If y'all want to put an F, I just said C just because like there's
What's
some
the
other
actual
movies
math on that? 1 C and 2 Fs.
It's
I
gonna
think
go
that's
F.
low D.
You want to put it low D?
You're putting it low D.
It's gonna end up going to F as we move stuff around anyways.
You're gonna have to exercise that moving then. Wow. I legitimately thought between the two of us and chat, we were all unanimously F, but you broke all of our expectations here by going C with it. That's crazy.
There's reasons why. As for the example of a reason why, 2019's Dumbo.
Ooh,
Chris will understand this better than most everyone else. This was another one of those old classic Disney movies that I used to watch every weekend as a kid. And granted, this was primarily probably before Chris was born, but still, like Dumbo and Pinocchio, Mary Poppins, Pete's Dragon, those are movies that I watched over and over and over again. And I know those movies like the back of my hand still. Dumbo didn't do it for me. I was eager for a live action Dumbo, especially because, again, this was directed by Tim Burton, and this movie looked a lot better than Alice in Wonderland. So I like Tim Burton in general. I had some high hopes, and they just changed way too much. The original cartoon is 64 minutes long. This movie, they, of course, made it longer, feature film length. And to accomplish that, they stuck in all these humans. In the original cartoon, the only human that kind of sort of matters is the ringleader. And he really only matters in an effort that we see him running the circus and that he also gets Dumbo and Timothy drunk. That's it. That's the only reason the ringleader's in the original movie. Otherwise, it's all animals all the time. Granted, they got rid of the Black Crows, so cheers there, but they stuck in a bunch of humans that frankly are just stupid. A lot of the humans in this movie, they just make dumb choices and dumb decisions, and it makes sense because they weren't a part of the story to begin with. So that being said, I do have Dumbo as a D. There are movies, a couple other movies I still hate even more because of my personal connection to them.
So this is where things get weird, because everything I blamed him for on Lion King, he's about to blame me for on this one.
It's how you personally connect to these Disney movies.
And I have no personal connection to Dumbo.
Yeah.
I don't even know that I ever actually watched all the way through the original Dumbo. That I think that remains true for a lot of these animated movies. There's a few of these, like Cinderella. I don't know that I ever watched Cinderella. I don't know that I ever watched Sleeping Beauty. I just don't know that I ever watched a few of these more classic, older cartoons. This one, I think it is because I don't have a connection to the OG Dumbo, I actually really liked it. Not like really, really liked it, but I enjoyed it. I had enough fun with it. Enough so that I recognize where the original movie kind of ends and this movie kind of picks up a new story that is added onto it. And for me, it works. Obviously, not really having a connection to the old one, that helps a whole lot in terms of whether this story works. And I think that's where Disney's trying to aim for some of these movies, is because you've got a whole generation or several generations of kids coming up now who maybe their parents showed them the original Dumbo on Disney Plus, maybe. But if they didn't, they took them to see this movie in the theater, and this is the Dumbo for those kids. And they're going to grow up thinking this is a perfectly fine movie. Mm-hmm. Because in all honesty, I really don't think there's anything about this movie that's actually like offensive to the palate. There is a moment in there where, for a majority of the film prior to them going to, was it Dreamland was the name of it was Dreamland. was the name of the amusement park.
Oh, yeah.
Prior to that, didn't feel like a Tim Burton movie to me. Once they hit that, it felt like the Tim Burton's Willy Wonka adaptation. So I felt the Tim Burton there, but otherwise, this felt like a pretty decent version of Dumbo for me. I mean, the characters were serviceable. They were good for what the story needed from them, I believe. That's the way I felt. Nerd's right. Eva Green was very enchanting in this movie. I thought she was fantastic. She might have been actually the best actor in the role in this movie. Not saying Michael Keaton isn't good. I think Michael Keaton is great. I think his character was, like you were saying, his character was stupid. His character just didn't make any logical sense. The whole thing, real quick, the whole thing with Dumbo's wanting to fly off and hang out with his mom. The little girl was like, if you just let him see his mom and just be with his mom, he'll do whatever you want. He'll fly 18,000 shows for you every single day. Whatever you want. Dumbo will do it. Just let him be with his mom. And he was like, no, I don't think I want to do that. I think I just want to send her off to be killed. That way he's not distracted. What are you talking about, man? She literally just told you that he would do whatever you want. He'll make you a ton of money if you just let him be with his mom. There's no reason why you can't let the little elephant be with his mom. It doesn't make any sense. That's my only like a real big complaint, is that from a logic perspective, there's just a complete leap of logic there from someone who should be smart enough to be able to run a business so big that it, ends up like a big amusement park like that. Just made no sense to me. But that being the one detractor, I do actually enjoy this movie. I did think it was entertaining. I thought Dumbo was the cutest thing. I thought he was absolutely adorable. I think they did a fantastic job adapting him from animation to live action. And I do enjoy the additions to the story. I do enjoy the direction they went with it. I think it was a lot of fun and really added some more depth to what otherwise would have been a quick and easy one-note story. But that's my thoughts. Where did I put this? I think I put this in the B tier. Yeah, it was B tier for me.
All right. And what does the chat say?
Chat says F.
F. So we got B, D, and F.
I got that BDF.
So that's,
I don't know, go somewhere with that. Jeremy Michael Keaton. Tori wakes up.
Yeah.
Yep. Michael Keaton's in this. He's a bad guy. He's a bad guy in this. Oh, get the next question ready.
I would probably say make this a third D and put it
30?
right in the middle.
I think that fits where probably a majority of people would probably put that movie. I think I'm probably the odd man out in terms of enjoying it. I think that does make me the odd duck here, but
would it be the highest D mathematically? I'm
running
with
a
putting
YouTube channel, so
yeah, I'm okay with putting it over Alice.
I trust my opinions. Oh yeah, I would 100% put it over Alice.
We'll just go ahead and make that shift right now. Yes, at the end of this, we will also do the usual, do we feel like anything needs to change? We're just going to go ahead and make this one right now, though.
100% put it over Alice.
Okay. Next one. So this one, we're starting with you.
Ooh, goody. I get to sing some praise before you get to ruin everything.
Demolish it, yeah. Real quick, though, before we move on to this next one, we're making really good time with this. Again, y'all have any questions, comments, issues, or if you want to rank these yourselves and have us read off the ranking at the end of this, streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. Feel free to add anything you would like at that location there.
Yes, please.
Let's talk about a lad named Aladdin.
Wow. He's a little
Improv lessons. Streamlabs.com/cinefanatics would be a great place to.
Improv lessons. When it's time for the other person to speak and you start talking again, interrupting what they were going to say.
Go ahead, Chris.
He's a little lad that likes berries and cream. Okay. Aladdin was one of those movies that I think I was really kind of nervous about. I kind of trusted it a little bit because they're like, hey, we got Guy Ritchie directing this. And I was like, Guy Ritchie directing Aladdin? You have my curiosity. So that had me like right off the bat. Going into it, obviously a lot of people were nervous about the Will Smith of it all. Not because Will Smith couldn't do a good job. It's because of this. It's because also...
Nicely done, sir.
It took me a minute, but I got it. Yeah, it's funny. It's good stuff. Haha. But it is because you are replacing one of Robin Williams' most iconic roles ever with literally anyone else, and it doesn't really matter who it was. Will Smith was kind of in a no-win situation there. Or maybe it's called a thankless position or something, essentially. I don't know. He had to come in and be the genie in a situation where, had Robin Williams still been with us, maybe Robin Williams would be casted as the live action genie, which in another world, that would actually be kind of intriguing to have seen. Much like they kept James Earl Jones for doing the voice of Mufasa. There's just some roles you just can't recast as long as you could cast the same person. But alas, we didn't have that option here. All that being said, I thought Will Smith did a fine job. You have to go into it expecting he's not going to do a Robin Williams impression. He's not going to do the same exact genie we saw in the animated version. And I think that's where a lot of people, it might lose a lot of people, but that's where I think it actually gained me, is because I'm someone who wants, if you're going to adapt from the animated to live action, I'm someone who wants to see you do something a little bit different with it. I want to see you take it in a different direction and not do a one-to-one copy of what we saw in the animated movie, because I could just watch the animated movie if you're going to do that. Now, that being said, I do like this one. I do like this version of Aladdin. I will probably still watch the animated version over this because that is one of the movies that I have a connection to. I believe the animated Aladdin, as far as my memory can recall and serve, might be the first movie I ever saw in a theater. And gosh darn it, is that not a core memory for me?
And also the first movie you ran out of the theater crying.
And 100% the first movie, I was absolutely terrified when the Cave of Wonders hit the screen at the beginning. How old was I? 4 years old, something like that. My little 4-year-old brain.
289. So yeah, you were like 3.
I was 3. Okay. My little 3-year-old brain could not fathom or understand the majesty of the Cave of Wonders, and I damn near shat my pants. So I ran out crying like a little baby, and that's where Aladdin serves me in my core memories as being probably the first movie I ever remember seeing in a theater. I don't know if mom and dad took me to go see another movie before then. Didn't really stick in my brain as a memory, so this one did. However, so that's my connection to the original Aladdin. So if you're going to remake that movie, the first movie I saw in a movie theater, it's going to be held to a higher standard for me too. And I think they did a relatively excellent job in terms of what they could do. This is another one of those situations where I think they could have done a lot worse with this movie. And for me, I'm going to say as a positive, I think you're going to say it as a negative because I've heard you talk about this movie before. For me, there's a positive in the production design. I do think that this is a best of both worlds in both the theatrical and cinematic. And that is something that I actually do like about this movie because we know Aladdin has a very big history on Broadway too. It's one of the It's one of like the big, like most sold out shows that you hear about on Broadway as well. And so I feel like they intentionally kind of made some of the song and dance sequences a little bit more theatrical rather than cinematic. And I think that's something that I actually really like about it. On top of that, this was a very nice escape from what you usually see from Guy Ritchie. I think you definitely get to see some of Guy Ritchie's flair in here. It's tucked in here and there, but for the most part, this is very different for him. And I think it's always fun to see a director kind of get out of their comfort zone sometimes, for better or worse. So this one, where did I have it? I think I said A tier. Let me see. Yeah, A tier. A tier for me. A for Aladdin.
All right. Well, to bring this down, yeah, Aladdin, the original cartoon, is one of my favorite Disney cartoons out of all of them. I love how they did everything in there. It's so much fun, great story, fantastic songs. I love it. Yes, I judge this movie very harshly. First of all, I'm not normally a Guy Ritchie fan. I don't know of like really any of his movies that I'm like super eager to talk about or watch on a repeat viewing or anything. So not a huge fan there. And kind of like what my brother was hinting at, I do kind of think a lot of this movie, it feels less thematic and more like a stage production. Some of those just look like literally a stage that they decorated with whatever was that scene. Everyone's all dancing and flying around or whatever, and then shut down that stage. Let's move over to the next stage that's already preloaded with the next scene ready to move on. And that's the feeling of this movie. And I don't know, it didn't work for me as far as that goes. The additions that they did, namely to Jasmine's character, they didn't need to be made. I know why they put them in there. Like, I get the idea. We're making Jasmine a stronger character. I think Jasmine was a pretty strong character to begin with. The original storyline of Aladdin is her not agreeing with her father or her culture that she must be married to a prince by her such as like 16th birthday or some weird thing like that.
16, huh?
Something like that. It was like 16, 17. I don't know. She was already fighting against that rule. And the fact that her character voiced her opinions in the original, I think is a great showing of how strong Jasmine is already. We did not need to push that even further. And that speechless song, it was just badly out of place. I get the ideas for it. I understand why they did it. I, as someone who's not a teenage girl, cannot understand or put myself in those shoes. So from my viewpoint of how much I enjoyed the movie, I didn't think it was necessary. I get why it's in there. If you feel empowered by it, cool. That's awesome. But I just didn't need it. And it kind of took me out. Overall, just the overall thoughts, feelings, and opinions about this movie, I do have it as an F. I just think it changed way too much in the look, in the feel. Mina Musal does a fantastic job as Aladdin, and I actually do like what Will Smith did as the genie. Kind of like what you're saying. It doesn't actually matter who they casted in. They were all going to be fighting this uphill battle anyways. Yeah. And I think he did as best as he could with that role. And it was still fun, but the rest of the movie
it's because they took Genie in a completely different direction. I think that's a positive. No, that's actually a positive of this movie, because you had to take Genie in a different direction. You couldn't do the same Genie that Robin Williams did. Otherwise, you would have that problem.
I also didn't like the idea that Genie ends up with like the housemaid or whatever, her Jasmine's friend, or that was weird.
I think and again, that's where the difference between us lies, because I think that's perfectly fine for this version of the Genie. Because obviously we know in the animated version that Genie gets set free, goes to live his life. This version of the Genie is played by an actual human. And I know we've talked about this, but I feel like it makes a lot of sense for this version of the Genie to get a human reward in being able to find love and find a partner essentially.
Yeah,
I thought that worked perfectly fine for this version of Genie.
yeah. So as we're waiting, I guess we're waiting on the chat still. Garth dropped a Streamlabs saying, "I love Guy Ritchie movies, and this is my least favorite of his 14 movies. Yes, even below Swept Away and King Arthur: Legend of the Sword."
Oof.
Here it is. This movie just rubbed me the wrong way. I wish it was better. Good job, Garth.
Chad is saying D.
D, and you said what?
I said A. Yeah, A for Aladdin.
You said A. I said F, and the chat says D.
So ADF.
So C.
Low C.
I feel like I feel like that's where the math is checking out at.
Lower mid C, depending on how many end up in there.
Yeah. All right. Next one that we're moving to.
Oh, I'm glad you get to start with this one and not me.
Yeah. Lady and the Tramp.
Oh, never mind. That is not the one.
Well, he's a tramp and puppies love him or whatever. I thought this movie was well done.
Sorry, I'm confused. I got a completely different order here.
Oh. Did you already post her?
No, I was about to post the poll, but this is not the one that I had next.
Oh, okay.
You want to double check and make sure that is the one that's next? Because
that's the one I have next on here.
That's not the order you had on the thing earlier.
On the thing.
You're throwing me off, man.
Oh, yes. I did move it around on the spreadsheet thing.
He moved it around on me. So I mean, I can... If we stick with Lady and the Tramp, I can just change the question out before I put it in the poll, so that's fine.
Okay.
Since we already got Lady and the Tramp pulled up, it just threw me off, man. Threw me off.
All right. So I thought the movie was well done. The changes to the story I thought were good, and I feel like it helps support the storyline. There really wasn't that many changes, I would say, to this. Everything felt pretty normal. Obviously, there was a change to the two Siamese cats because they wanted to get away from that stereotype. But I think the way they changed it and what the cats still did, they still got the nature of what the Siamese cats are doing in the original. I like how they adapted it here. It still worked perfectly fine and still kept the flow of the movie without changing anything. If you had no idea of the original, you wouldn't be missing anything at all whatsoever. So I think that was fine. I don't really think there really were too many other changes other than like maybe like a couple of scenes in between like the more well-known scenes. I thought the CGI on the animals I thought was pretty good. I thought they emoted pretty decently. A little bit of it was a little wonky. At some points, I'm trying to figure out if they are actually animating the dogs talking or if they did the tried and true Mr. Ed shove a bunch of peanut butter in there and they're like, and they're just filling their mouth with words as they are chomping on peanut butter. Otherwise, yeah, I thought the movie was done very well. And the animals could emote. Want to make sure we drive that home. They emoted much better in this than they did almost any other Disney animated.
Which is weird
remake.
Because the animals were real in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, this wasn't like the animal wasn't CGI. These animals were actually real with CGI effects on their faces.
CGI eyebrows and mouths.
Mm-hmm. So they know how to do it. They just chose not to do it in other movies, but they did it in this one, and I thank them for that.
And I think the reason why you do it for this one and say not like Lion King is completely tone. The tone of this movie is very different than say Lion King. I don't know how to describe it, but this is definitely more of a cheerful, upbeat tale than Lion King is.
Yeah. The dinner scene that is like in this image, I think that is the iconic scene from this movie, and I think they nailed it perfectly. just even down to like the instance of them sharing the spaghetti noodling, like kissing, and then she turns her head, like they even did that, and they did it in a way where it's still animated and cute, but they did it in kind of like a realistic way that if that dog was to react that way, it's still that looked how I would expect the dog to react. So stuff like that was still faithful. I love what was it, Peg, the puppy, the dog in the pound that was singing about the tramp.
Janelle Monáe?
She was voiced by Janelle Monáe, which fit perfectly, and I love that casting for her. So yeah, I think they did very well with the voice cast on this movie was insane and very well done.
The voice cast was good. I love the partnership of Janelle Monáe with Benedict Wong.
Yeah. It took me a while. Like I kept forgetting that was Benedict Wong. There's a couple of things he says in there. I was like, okay, he sounds like Wong from Doctor Strange, but otherwise, the only thing I will say that was weird about the voice casting is Lady was Tessa Thompson.
I'm gonna bark. Don't do it. I'm gonna bark. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Please don't do it. I'm gonna bark.
And Justin Theroux was the tramp.
Yeah.
If this was a live action movie, I don't know how well that coupling would work. It's a little weird, but it worked. Their voices work great in this animated setting, and I loved it. I thought they did great on that.
Yeah. Voice cast was good.
I had this as an A.
Yeah, that's an A. Okay. Voice cast was good. My positive for this movie, because I want to find positive and everything, my positive of this movie is respecting the iconic scene. I think, like you were saying, they hit the iconic scene perfectly. Even down to, we're going to put F. Murray Abraham in this role because we respect this scene. So we're going to put a respectful actor in this scene with them. I don't really know if that's the line of reasoning for that, but
that and what's his face from Alternatino.
Oh, he was also in The Menu.
He was in The Menu, yeah. And that Weird Al movie.
Yeah. My positive for this movie is they respected the scene. And that's about my only positive for this movie. I was not a fan. This one did not work for me. At the end of it, I kind of felt like, okay, I guess this is a movie you can choose to do a live action remake of. I don't know why you did. Like, look, I give you the pass on pretty much all of the rest of these. I can understand a line of reasoning for why you would want to try to do a live action remake for almost all of the rest of these movies, including Lion King, again, which I put in the F tier. This one, I was like, I don't feel like this one needed to be. Of all the movies you did this instead of Atlantis. That's really my main problem here. Is why did you do this instead of Atlantis? Yeah, Tori was watching this with me. Halfway through, we're like, what are we watching? I don't have a deep connection to the original Lady and the Tramp story, and this might be a situation where that works against me here, because watching this movie, I think this movie, to its benefit, I think this movie is built for kids. This version of the movie is 100% built for kids. This is not built for basically families and individuals like us necessarily. Obviously, you found some enjoyment in it, but of all these movies, I really do think this is one of the ones that's really built for kids. And I say that in how they did animate the dogs' faces and the tone of the movie.
I was going to say, you mean a 40-something-year-old guy can't sit here in the privacy of his own room, have a couple of beers and some whiskey, maybe like some whatever CBD stuff I can get legally in Texas, and enjoy this movie? I can't do that? Okay.
No, you can do that with Cinderella, though. Anyway.
Crack open some beer and watch some Cinderella.
Anyway, I don't. This one just felt very unnecessary to me. It's low. It was fine. I think they did a better job adapting it in this way than basically two other movies on this list, one of which we've already mentioned in The Lion King. So this movie is not an F tier for me. I do have this in the D tier, but it's the second of two movies in the D tier for me. So it's pretty bottom of the list for me. I was not. I just. I felt like it was a waste of my time by the end of it. I'm sorry to say. I know a lot of people like work on movies, and it always feels harsh to say like something that people put blood, sweat, and tears into creating feels like a waste of time to other people, but I was just not with it.
I appreciate you, Disney.
Yeah. I'm not a Disney show, by the way, if anyone wants to know.
I am.
Chat is tied between C and D. So I am low D. You said A. So A, D, and then a C and D.
So the chat's still tied, or?
Yeah, chat is still tied. I need y'all to fix. Stop giving us a tie. Someone fix this. Waiting for one more vote. Come in. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Y'all better listen to me when I ask for a fix. D. Chat's going D now.
Okay. So you said D. Chat says D, and I said A.
Yeah.
What were we talking about again? ADD. That was a dumb joke.
Wow.
Okay, so ADD. So
chat wants that D just like Lady wanted that doggy D. Okay.
Really, Chris?
You know, sometimes it's there, and sometimes you just don't have to pick it up.
Yeah.
That was an example of one of those times you just didn't have to pick it up. Just leave it lying where it's at. Just leave it lying right where it's at.
Man. Stop auto adjusting on me.
I don't know which movie you're going to move on to next. I'm going to wait and find out before I put up the chat poll.
All right. So was it 2 Ds and an A? I stuck it at the bottom of C and gave C the 3. So we'll probably still move these around as we get closer. We're at what, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we got 5 more movies to go. So making good time here. The next one we're moving on to is Mulan.
Okay. Whew. All right. Here we go. I'm scrambling, man. So I'm starting with this one then.
Yes.
All right. So Mulan for me, this ends up on the other end of the meh line for me. I do like what they attempted to do with it. I think that they did attempt to do something good, and I think that they did do something that was relatively decent. I think there was a large missed opportunity here, and that large missed opportunity is in the shape of one red luck dragon named Mushu, who was missing, giant Mushu-sized hole missing in this movie. And I get the tone is very different, but you could have done something with Mushu. Mushu was the levity. Mushu was the levity this movie was missing. It was fine. It was fine. What they did with it was fine. I don't think it's an F tier movie. I think it's better than that. But I do think this is one of those movies where they had a lot of opportunity to improve upon it, rather than a lot of opportunity to be worse. I think performances, great. I think the one positive that I picked out for this movie for sure. Cinematography, excellent cinematography for this movie. There's tracking shots, especially there's one in the trailer where the bad guy is jumping off the ground and running up a wall, and the camera moves with him and just swings up with him in one fluid shot as he starts running up the wall. Excellent. The cinematography is excellent on this movie. But just when it comes to the writing, this is one of those movies where I was like, you've got to respect the animated version that you had before this. This might be a situation where I think there's a story of Mulan. If I recall correctly, there's a story of Mulan before the animated version.
I'm gonna talk about that, but yes.
And I think that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to actually lean more towards that than really be making a remake of the animated version. I just think if you leaned more into remaking the animated version, it would have been better overall. So I needed basically look, my problem with this movie, I need Mushu. Where's Mushu at? Dishonor on your family, dishonor on your cow. Where's Mushu?
Yeah.
I need some Eddie Murphy love in this one. And this would have been one of those where I was like, you bring Mushu in, you cast Eddie Murphy as him still.
What tier do you have this at?
Mulan is, let's see, that's C. I have it in C tier.
C? Okay. Pretty much everything I was going to make a point of, he did that very well. The cinematography is amazing, gorgeous. The shots, I have nothing to add to that conversation. I agree 100%. This is, so what you were saying, this is actually closer to the legend of Hua Mulan.
Yeah.
In the movies, they changed it to Hua Mulan. I can't remember why they changed, essentially the last name. The Asian culture, the last name's first before the first name. So, but yeah, this movie seemed like more that they wanted to honor the actual legend of Mulan instead of remaking their own cartoon. Because of that is why we got rid of Mushu. There was no comedic stability there. The problem is that's fine if you were to have sold this movie as an adaptation of the original legend. Instead, this movie, like this tier ranking tonight, is falling into the bucket of live action Disney remakes. That's what we were expecting when this movie was being pushed back because of the pandemic. This was I think the first movie that actually was really affected once the pandemic came out, because this movie was supposed to come out the tail end of March of 2020. This movie had its world premiere, and then between the premiere and the actual opening, the world shut down. So this was the movie everyone went to the premiere back in March, but the rest of the world didn't get to see this movie until August.
What is time?
That's
absolutely correct, but good Lord. Wow.
I think that's other than movies playing and technically premiering at festivals like South by or Cons or something like that. I think this is the longest amount of time between a premiere and the wide release of the movie because of the pandemic. But yeah, because it was missing Mushu, that the Disney angle of this, it felt like, it was missing the charm. It was missing the heart. It needed Mushu, at least Mushu, in there to kind of help break up the seriousness of war. This movie, because they did away with that, the only real bits of levity that are happening in this movie is the little bit that they still kept of Mulan being a fish out of water, trying to act like a guy in the guy's army. And it just was not enough, or it needed that Mushu to kind of help support that. Like in the original cartoon, Mushu is there kind of helping her learn or deal with it. It's a lot funnier when you have the little dragon that's trying to help you get out of the water before everyone else sees you naked when swimming. It doesn't work so well if you just happen to be well, I'm swimming naked, bathing, and here come the guys. It just feels a little more weird.
It's also funny if that little dragon who's trying to get you out of that water is voiced by Eddie Murphy.
Yes. So, the movie was well shot. If I'm looking at it from it being an adaptation of the original legend, it's good. But as far as a live action Disney remake, it's not. And again, everyone, I see what people are saying in the chat. I feel like this was a movie that the whole world was all right, Disney, here's the one that you get and you nail it 100%. And they didn't, and they could have. It was right there. I have this as a B.
That is my feeling with this. If this was an adaptation of the Mulan story by like another studio, I think it would have been perfectly fine because none of us would have been expecting the Disneyfication of it. But because it was being sold and billed essentially as a remake of the animated Mulan, so to speak, even if they weren't trying to sell it and bill it that way, that kind of just was. It kind of left a lot to be desired in terms of certain Disneyfied things. So I said C, I believe. Chat says C as well.
Yeah. So you said C, chat says C, I say B.
Yeah.
Okay. So this needs to go C. So this is the inevitable drop on everything.
Matter, did your Lion King drop?
My Lion King did drop.
See, I was doing Joker there for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Oh, look what ends up in the F tier. Oh, can you feel the love tonight?
No, but I can feel it during the day.
Hakuna Matata means no worries. Lion King's going to go into F. Don't worry about it.
So where is he?
Danny William Harold, Lion King dropping like Mufasa. Sheesh. Yikes.
Where is it going to go in C?
CC, and you said B. So either mid or upper C.
I'm okay with putting it above Maleficent.
I know you are.
Are you okay with putting it above Maleficent?
I have Maleficent above Mulan. That's the difference.
I mean, I'm okay with it either way.
Technically, I also have Aladdin above Mulan too, but whatever.
Yeah, that one I don't want to do.
Yeah. I'd slide it right there in the middle.
All right. We did get a Streamlabs from Garth saying, I had high hopes for Mulan and thought it would be the first Disney live action remake that I'd enjoy. They were getting rid of musical numbers. I completely forgot about that when talking about this. Getting rid of musical numbers and Mushu for a more realistic movie based on the legend. However, they still put in magic and it was so dull. Yeah, they still had like some of like the spirits, the ancestor spirits were still kind of helping to guide Mulan. But yeah, getting rid of the music as well, that you can't do that on a Disney movie. Again, if you're going to sell this as a adaptation of the actual legend, then do that. But let us know so we know what to expect instead of like, well, it's a live action remake of the cartoon. No, it's not.
I can't have you take an entire song and just play it out in one line. All right, man. We're gonna make men out of you. All right, cool, sweet,
Yeah.
Great.
So be prepared for the coup of the century.
Yeah, nailed it.
Be prepared for sensational news.
Listen, you poor unfortunate soul.
Yeah. Luckily, she actually sings in Little Mermaid, so
yeah,
and she actually sings quite good. We'll talk about here in a minute. Next one. This one is going to me. Cruella. So I thought this was a well done reimagining of a classic villain, unlike Maleficent. This one didn't depart away from the character, and I can see this version of Cruella growing up to become the Cruella that we're used to in 101 Dalmatians. Maybe I would say probably closer to the Glenn Close version rather than the really scary animated version. But she's seemingly more on that end rather than Maleficent, who is blatantly a sympathetic character that we're supposed to like in her movie versus like you like Cruella, but not for the reason that you're supposed to like her. By the time the story of 101 Dalmatians actually starts, you're not going to be liking Cruella, but it's okay to like her within the context of this movie. the comparison there is Maleficent. There is parts of Maleficent. In fact, most of Maleficent is taking place at the same time as Sleeping Beauty. So we're seeing her actually being a kind, caring person. Cruella takes place completely 100% before 101 Dalmatians. So we see what's leading up to her being the cruel character that she will become. She just hasn't hit that yet. So that's my big difference between Cruella and Maleficent. It does leave that doorway available, and I'm hoping that they're doing a sequel to this because I want to see that gap closed. And I think it's very potential. Great casting of Emma Stone and Emma Thompson in this. Emma Thompson effectively playing the role that Cruella will become, even though I think she's more closer to Meryl Streep's character in Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah.
I have Cruella as an S.
Yeah. So I hate to fundamentally disagree with almost nearly everything you said there, but Nerd hit it for me here. It actually isn't compatible at all with any prior version. This is an alternate reality Cruella. This Cruella does not turn into the Cruella that we know from any other adaptation. She gave Roger and Anita Pongo and Perdita at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really fly with any other version of Cruella that we saw.
She's not used to Dalmatians being fur that she could use yet.
This seems like what happens if one of the Infinity Stones didn't get taken back to its specific time period that it came from during Infinity War, where we have a split alternate timeline where this Cruella ends up overcoming some kind of demons she has with the Dalmatians, and turns out that maybe she actually does end up being a reasonably likable character that we actually could end up enjoying rather than hating later on down the line. So yeah, as a completely different adaptation of the character, this is the interesting dichotomy here, because Disney did this with Maleficent, it did it with Cruella. We take the villains of these movies and we twist the story to where they're no longer villains. They're just painted. They've just been painted wrong in tellings of their story, so to speak. In which case, I find it very intriguing. However, this is not something I want to see that often, despite the fact that I do like Maleficent and I do really, really like this movie. I think this movie was excellent. I don't think that we need to be doing this all that often. I don't need Jafar was actually a good guy the whole time, you know? I don't need Scar was just misunderstood. You know, I don't need those movies. And I don't really want to see us go down this path with too many more characters.
Although I do want to see them try that with Gaston just to see how Twitter reacts to it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't want that.
Wait. Gaston's an alpha male. How dare you?
Wait, he wasn't a chauvinist pig? What? No, he was just misunderstood. God,
great.
no. God, no. Please don't do that. All that being said, this movie was excellent. Emma Stone, fantastic. Glenn Close, fantastic in that Cruella. Emma Stone, fantastic for this Cruella. Equally both excellent in their roles. And this movie, the other positive I wanted to mention about it is the integration of music, wherein the music in this movie was the majority of the budget for this movie. There were so many great needle drops that just worked with this movie, and it added the tone and essence of what this movie was supposed to be. Plus, seeing Cruella have this like deeper relationship with the two
Jasper
and Horace, having it like a deeper relationship with them. They were all like pals back in the day when Jasper and Horace kind of found her and took her under their wing, essentially. All of it is interesting because it shouldn't work.
as an idea, this movie shouldn't work, but it does. It does, and it does well. For me, it's also an S tier. Oh, yeah. And I need to do a secondary poll for the chat because they also voted S through B. So let me do another poll for you guys so we can get an accurate chat vote here. All right, guys. S, A, or B? Where's chat putting Cruella at?
That's what I was saying. I kind of want to see a sequel to this just because I want to see what's that storyline between this first movie and where Cruella, the character, ends up in 101 Dalmatians. I could see her still becoming that same villain. There wasn't enough done in this movie that would completely negate that full-on heel turn that she would make sometime between this movie and 101 Dalmatians. I think it's still possible.
It's just her arc with the Dalmatian dogs, and she initially like hating them, but realizing that it wasn't their fault that her mother died, essentially. Yeah. Or the person, I guess it wasn't her mother. I forget how that plot twist worked out, but
it was the guard dogs.
Yeah, I know who the dogs were. It's just her mom versus the person who was watching her. Was Emma Thompson actually her mom? I can't remember how that plot twist worked out.
Yeah, I believe so.
Either way, she grew up disliking Dalmatians, and then learned that it wasn't their fault. It wasn't because of them, and so she doesn't hate Dalmatians by the end of the movie, which does not, for me, honestly, it does not work. It does not jive with any other version of Cruella.
I don't think she absolutely loves or hates Dalmatians in 101 Dalmatians. I think it's just she realizes that their fur could be very popular and very fashionable, and she just wants to capture Dalmatian puppies just to get their fur. She doesn't actually care about the animal at all.
Yeah, doesn't really work. S tier for chat. So we're all S's all the way around.
Well, that's easy.
Guess where this one's going?
This one is going in the perfect spot.
Very top of S tier, exactly where I have it.
If everyone's agreeing that that's S, then dang it, that'll be S.
Gosh, gee golly darn willikers, that's an S tier movie.
Yeah. So in regards to, like, say, Winnie the Pooh and Peach Dragon, obviously, again, Peach Dragon was a live action movie. We're doing animated movies that have been turned into a live action, and whatever Lion King is. And then, Christopher Robin was not a remake. It was just another story about Winnie the Pooh and everyone that takes place after the main story of Winnie the Pooh.
And that one also for much the same reason why we don't have Maleficent 2 on this list either.
Yeah.
Or Alice in Wonderland 2.
So next one, and then you start off with this one.
Ooh, all right.
Pinocchio. So I love Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Oh, we're not talking about that one. Okay.
Yeah, so Guillermo del Toro, fantastic director.
It's not this.
Tom Hanks, fantastic actor. I love Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is always a joy. Just an absolute treasure.
Directed by Robert Zemeckis, fantastic director, much beloved. Can't do anything wrong.
The adaptation of Pinocchio's look from the animated movie to this is fantastic. He looks like the animated version of Pinocchio, just with realistic texture to him. I think that was fantastically done. Very well done. Very well done. That is the best aspect of this movie. The rest of this movie sucks.
Why? Why is this movie so bad?
And it's not even that it's bad, honestly. For me, this again falls into the same bucket as if you're going to do a live action adaptation of the animated, do something different enough with it to warrant its existence. And they didn't. They did not do enough different with this movie to warrant or justify making a live action Pinocchio, which, by the way, I guess this is a moot point because there are plenty of live action Pinocchio adaptations. There's plenty of animated Pinocchio adaptations. If you want to watch a Pinocchio movie, you've got a ton to choose from.
Just a little less than Jungle Book adaptations, I'm saying.
Basically. Which actually makes this even less of a reason to exist. Especially if they weren't going to do anything different with it or all that much different with it than the animated version. To me, this does feel like a one-to-one copy-paste animated movie to live action. They maybe tweaked some things here and there. I know there was a couple of funny lines here and there, like, what should we call you, Chris? Let's call him Chris Pine. Ah, that's a funny name. Get it? Because he's made of pine, and that's an actor that exists, and he's a person. That's a funny joke. It's a funny joke, guys. The movie was fine. The movie was fine because Pinocchio exists already. But again, if I'm looking for a movie I'm going to watch between the two, I'm probably going to go to the animated version of this movie. I'm not going to go to this one because I ultimately feel like this movie does not have a reason to exist. It kind of falls in that same bucket for me as Lady and the Tramp, it just feels like a unnecessary remake to me. Like they didn't do enough with it to kind of justify the means of its existence. So again, fantastic job on the adapting the look of Pinocchio from the animated to the live action, but we didn't need this. We didn't need this movie. It's D tier for me. D tier, and it's still D tier because the story is roughly the same. That's about it.
So I say kind of the same. Now, here's the thing. My first thing I have on my notes is why didn't they stick closer to the original story? So the difference here in what we're saying.
Yeah.
There's the original story, and you're saying that they didn't change too much from it. I'm saying the changes that they did make didn't do anything. They weren't necessary changes. They deviated from the original story and they served no purpose. There was, for example, there's a shot where Pinocchio is actually going to school and Jiminy Cricket or whatever, I can't remember if they even call him Jiminy Cricket in this one. They put a jar over him and he's kept under a jar like pretty much all day until he manages to free himself from the jar. Why? That wasn't needed. That's not in the original, and it adds nothing. It was a weird plot thing that they did just because they're like, we need to change things up and do something. Change it up, but change it to something that serves the movie and the main storyline. Even if it's something that is a slightly bit different from the main storyline, it still doesn't deviate from that main storyline at all. There's a couple of them that they did with this. There's this whole thing when he's locked in the cage in the marionette puppet trailer covered wagon thing. There's like this whole plot line that doesn't exist in the actual cartoon, and I don't know why. Just so much stuff added to this that just did not need to be there. Yeah. Like, why is he stepping in poop?
It's funny. It's for kids.
Sure. I mean, if you're trying to play to kids and you want to throw a poop joke in there because you're trying to play to the lowest common denominator of kid, we like poop jokes and fart jokes. And
poop is funny.
Yeah, sure, but it doesn't add anything. It takes away. And again, a part of this may be me harping a little too much because this was another one of those cartoons I watched every freaking weekend when I was a kid. So, yeah, I had a personal connection to it, and I'm upset that they changed stupid stuff in this. Make the changes make sense. We're going to be talking about another movie that just recently came out that changes were made to it, and it still worked within the confines of the movie. So, yeah, I just it deviated too much, changed too much for it to matter. Didn't have any real stakes at all in this movie. Like when he gets sent to Pleasure Island, I didn't at once feel scared about him like I did in the cartoon. And granted, again, I was a kid, sure. Kids randomly turning into donkeys is scary as hell. But even though I knew that was coming in this, it still didn't feel like it mattered when Lampwick turned into a donkey in this movie. You're like, oh, okay, he's supposed to turn into a donkey. And even then, like the camera panned away. They didn't show it all. It was just really weird. Like, I don't like the choices they made with this movie. And again, I hate that because it's directed by Robert Zemeckis and stars Tom Hanks. How can you go wrong with the two people very much responsible for the success of Forrest Gump?
Yeah.
Couldn't do that same magic with Pinocchio. So I have this as a D.
Yeah, that's where I have it too. I think that's where the difference lies in what we're saying here. I think we're using the same word for different things.
Yeah.
Wherein I'm talking about like the story, just the overall arc of the entire story is basically the same movie. You're talking about like there's different pieces and choices and that were different in the plot. Like certain areas they decided to go a slightly different way with some things, but overall the story of the movie is basically the same movie.
Yeah.
They
Anyways,
didn't do enough different for me.
what is the chat thinking?
Chat said F.
So you said D, I said D, and they say F. I mean, I'm okay with this going F as well.
Nerd, I will leave if this stays in D tier.
That's the thing. I am actually okay if this goes down to F. I can understand that reasoning, that logic, that desire to stick it in F. I'm okay with that.
I would be okay with that if we are guaranteeing that F is going to have 3 movies in it. If it's just 2, there are 2 movies, Lion King being one of them, that I would prefer to be an F over Pinocchio. So we can put it wherever, right? I mean, if we want to slide it to F right now.
Actually, right now, I will bump Alice down to F, and I will put Pinocchio where Alice is at. But I'm gonna leave this up to moving around. So Nerd, don't leave anywhere yet. I'll leave it open to moving around if we want to change like how many are in each tier afterwards.
We will shift some things. This is not a final looking list yet.
Yeah, I feel like out of all the marquees, this is the one that I'm probably the most open to. Y'all just move these wherever you want. There's like a couple that I feel very passionate about, like Cruella. It's roughly just Cruella. And maybe another one coming up here in a little bit. But
yes, it is just Peter Pan and Wendy and Little Mermaid left. The 2 new ones, the 2 newest ones that just came out this year. Literally within like the last month and a half.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's weird that two of these movies came out within the last month and a half, whereas some of these are like separated by like a whole year. Mm-hmm. We've got 2 live action Disney remakes pretty much right next to each other.
So Peter Pan and Wendy. So I'm starting with this one.
Yeah.
So decent retelling with some changes, obviously. The primary thing that was changed in this one was an actual background between Peter and Hook. And I know that storyline that they do in this movie, I know it's been told in other adaptations. So this is an idea, a storyline that does exist in the greater outside of Disney Peter Pan lore. I just don't think it's needed. Like, I'm not a fan of that particular storyline. It just, I feel like it kind of ruins it. Like you're just trying to suck everything into the same narrative that everything else has. And I was just perfectly fine with just them remaining. Peter Pan's the kid, Hook's the adult, and they're just the antagonists. That's it. They're just adversaries against one another. I don't need the background behind it. I thought the movie was decent, but easily forgettable. The casting on this movie is just kind of all over the place. The girl that plays Wendy, she's fantastic. She'd probably make a better Black Widow, in my opinion. But I mean, otherwise, I will say, jokes aside, Jude Law as Captain Hook is fantastic casting. That is one of the best castings, probably out of almost this entire tier ranking, with the exception of course, Glenn Close as Cruella DeVille. I think him as Captain Hook was great casting, and Jim Gaffigan as Mr. Smee is also okay. But that's about it. The kid who plays Peter Pan, I can't really stand him. Like, he's not believable as Peter Pan to me. I forgot which one was John and which one was Michael watching this movie, and I also got them confused with like all the other Lost Boys. So, like,
but you're
everyone
not all
else,
boys. So, I guess that's a good point.
Yeah, I love that. Shut the hell up, internet. That's what that line was.
Like that. So
I love when they do that too. I love those, like, right on the
point.
nose. It's so much fun. Yeah, it was cute movie, but for me, my personal opinions of Peter Pan, I there's only 3 adaptations I like. The original Disney cartoon, 1991's Hook with Dustin Hoffman and Robin Williams, and then I do have like a soft spot for the Mary Martin like stage production that was a made for TV movie. It's weird, but I really liked it. So this one, I have this as a C. It is a cute movie. They do some like fun things with Peter Pan and whatnot, but forgettable.
Yeah, I agree on the very forgettable. Outside of the storyline of the connection they did between Pan and Hook, I don't remember much else from this movie, and I just watched it not too long ago.
Yeah.
This movie was very dull. Like this one was hard to get through for me. I will agree that Jude Law was fantastic as Hook. So much so that I believe that he was in a movie that nobody else was in. He was in his own movie. And that, I think, is actually a plus for him, but a minus for the movie. I do like the whole scene with the croc. I thought that was a fun scene. I think Jim Gaffigan as Smee was excellent. I saw him on the cast list, and I was like, oh, this will be an interesting take on Smee. And then he played it straight-laced, and I was like, wow, I'm actually kind of surprised Jim Gaffigan's doing Smee pretty straight-laced here. This is not bad. I actually kind of like this.
Captain Peter Pan is coming. Also, don't forget that the inside of your Hot Pocket is boiling lava hot.
Hot Pocket. Hot Pocket. And yes, I do find the storyline between Pan and Hook here actually kind of intriguing. That's about it, though. That's the extent of this movie for me. And yeah, like you were talking about Peter Pan here, the portrayal of Peter Pan here was very, very thin to me. I didn't feel anything for him. I didn't care about him in the slightest. From the second he showed up to the end of the movie, I was like, oh, that's right. He was Peter Pan. There was a Peter Pan story happening here. I did not connect with this kid playing Peter Pan at all. As far as the entire story, I can't tell you what direction it went in. I don't remember. Again, I just watched this movie not too long ago, and I've been able to talk about a vast majority of these movies on this list that I haven't seen for like probably several years at this point. And I've been able to talk about them more than I am about a movie I just watched like last month. I got nothing. This movie's an F tier for me. I did not feel it. I was not feeling this movie at all. I was completely bored by it. This is my only other F tier next to Lion King.
Yeah. The other thing I forgot to mention is I absolutely love the green screen effects on Tinkerbell.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's sarcasm. Every single time they show Tinkerbell, it was always like in close up, and it was just her. And why is her head 3 times bigger than the rest of her body?
Like she's a fairy.
They had no idea how to, I guess, render or design. It's not rendering, but design her properly. It looked terrible. Like that is.
I thought Tinkerbell was fine.
Go back and watch it again. She's not fine. She's.
You can't make me.
So I said C. What did you call it? You said F?
I said F. Chat says D.
Well, that was easy.
It's not as bad as Hugh Jackman Pan movie. I'll give it that. I'm probably going to agree with that because I haven't even seen the Hugh Jackman Pan movie. I think also my biggest thing is that I don't care about the Peter Pan story. Hook was fine.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned that I only actually really care about like those 3 adaptations.
Hook was a good movie. Other than that, I'm probably not going to go out of my way to watch a Peter Pan movie again. I just don't really care that much for the story.
All right, so I'm going to drop Pinocchio down to F and put 3 in F. Unless we want to move, which I guess we could do again here in a little bit. We've only got 1 left anyway, so it really doesn't matter.
Where did you put Peter Pan?
Under Pinocchio.
No, where were you putting Peter Pan?
C.
So CDF.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would probably drop Pinocchio.
I'm trying to move Alice. Well, the kitty cat is hungry.
She's like, food time! Be done with your show! I want to eat!
Yeah.
We got 1 more movie, Lola. Calm down. You'll be okay.
All right, last movie. And I guess you get to start talking about this one.
Oh, is it for
The Little Mermaid?
Here, let me get that chat poll going here. Actually, you know what? You start with Little Mermaid.
Okay, I'll start with it. I think this is actually probably the epitome of a straight remake of the animated cartoon. I don't think a single one of these movies, like, again, there's been changes to Jungle Book. It doesn't play exactly like the animated movie. Cruella is kind of like a prequel to this character, so it's not a straight adaptation of the animated movie. Little Mermaid is probably the closest to straight to the adaptation of the cartoon. I love the changes that they made to it, that they added to the movie. The changes were fine. There's this whole part where we get to meet Eric's mother in this movie. She's not a part of the original cartoon, and then she's running her kingdom that seems to have a problem with the sea people because her ships keep getting wrecked. They can't open trade with other countries and stuff. So she thinks that the sea gods, Triton, are against her. And so it creates this dynamic of the humans hate the sea creatures and the sea creatures like Triton hate the humans. And so it's very much a Romeo and Juliet type of situation. I also like that we have essentially a difference of cultures, or in this case, species or whatever. With all the controversy and everything surrounding Halle Bailey, it was another one of those, and like I said in the review, it was another one of those Disney going, shut the hell up, people. These people do not like one another, yet they might manage to find common ground by the end of the movie. Learn to adapt and like the fact that these changes were made. I think the movie, like the visual effects aside, we talked about that. The under the sea portions, not the song number, but just under the water, doesn't quite look right. It looks kind of fake, and like some of that's a little off. But the music numbers are actually done very well. The acting is done very well. I think, like we said, the worst acting was probably Javier Bardem, who just comes in, says his lines, and then swims off. Otherwise, everyone else, I think, does a phenomenal job and nails the roles perfectly, and especially Halle Bailey. Her ability to sing these songs, and she hits these songs perfectly, without question. Every note. Like I even deviated from my notes here. Effects were a little off underwater. Some of the animals can't emote. So yeah, there was no emoting at all from Flounder, but we also didn't see Flounder that much.
You're not really going to get emotion actually from a crab or a fish.
Yeah. The bird Scuttle, the Aquafina voice, it was a little kind of emotion there, but also the difference on here was these three animals primarily are not ones that we're following. This isn't like Lion King that we're following animals for the entire length of the movie. They're just here in and out. It's really just those three also. We do see the Elos, Flotsam, and Jetsam, but they don't talk, which I missed in this movie, because I do like the voice of Flotsam and Jetsam, especially because it kind of sounds like Ursula's talking through them when they would talk to Ariel, but we didn't get that in this movie, which is a poor, unfortunate case.
Wow.
Otherwise, I think this movie did wonderful. I think it's a fantastic remake. It hit pretty much everything that you're wanting to see out of a remake. I think it hits the nail on the head very well. Few little tweaks here and there, and this would have been like finally the perfect Walt Disney animated remake, live action remake. I also have this as an S.
Yeah. So for me, keeping in mind that where Aladdin is at on this list is not where I placed it, I enjoyed this movie a little bit more than Aladdin. And I very much enjoyed Aladdin. This kind of feels like along those lines for me, where it is a fantastic or a great adaptation of the animated version. The stuff that they did change up, I feel like added to the story. I felt like it was a great change. Relatively, it was basically the same story, which, this is what you expect. They just happen to add some really good stuff here. Overall, like, again, we just did our review of this and gave a lot of props during that review. Halle Bailey, fan-freaking-tastic as Ariel. I was intrigued. I was intrigued when they casted her. I was like, I want to see what they do with her character. I want to see where they go with it. And she felt like the Little Mermaid that I saw in the cartoon adapted to a live action role. She sounded perfect. She's got such a voice on her. And I think that's one of the main reasons they casted her, for sure. Eric was a fantastic cast as well. The chemistry they had was perfect. Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. She had fun. She had fun in that role. Again, like I said in the review, I think almost anybody could have played Ursula the way they wrote her and whatnot. I think they could have casted almost anybody they wanted to in this role. They did get Melissa McCarthy, who did a great job. Javier Bardem was there. And then, of course, all the voice actors and everything. I think Daveed Diggs was fantastic as Sebastian. Definitely took his voice in a different direction, but I loved his portrayal of Sebastian. Jacob Tremblay's Flounder was great. Awkwafina was Awkwafina. And that's what you get when you want an Awkwafina voice. You get Awkwafina. You're like, listen, here's the personality of this character. You ready? Yeah, it's Awkwafina. All right, cast Awkwafina. Got it. Nailed it. Overall, I found this to be very delightful, very charming. It is probably one of my favorite of the live action remakes that we've gotten, and that's not recency bias. That is after having watched the movie, and of course thinking about all the rest of these or watching a few of these leading up to this list. I was like, yeah, this really did feel like they. Honestly, like, it feels like they took their time with it. I don't know if that's because of the pandemic and having to put some delays on the movie, or if it's because they actually decided to kind of take their time and make sure they did get it right. Either way, I feel like this movie did have some care in it. Even if, like, you know, some people are saying visual effects wise, it's, you know, it might be off in places, but it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to give this movie props on that side when we have things like Avatar: The Way of Water out there, which just perfected underwater in movies essentially, and how they should look visual effects wise. And even Aquaman was pretty good too, even if it is all just a CGI thing. But overall, this is one of the 3 movies I've put in S tier. Also, it's for me, it was Cruella, Cinderella, Little Mermaid was my S tier. So easy S tier for me. Chat is leaning S tier as well.
We wanted to put this under the sea. I'm just saying.
So badly we wanted to be able to make that joke, but I don't. That joke just isn't worth it when the movie itself actually is really good.
I know. Jeremy Miller, why did they put a brand of water in a sea movie? Aquafina.
Wait, you want her to name herself Dasani?
Yeah.
Wow, she's really salty.
So yes, we got another Streamlabs from Garth. I haven't seen this, but from the trailers and clips, I hate that the underwater scenes aren't done well. Where are all the bubbles? Even the original animated version did a better job. Sebastian being a Jamaican red land crab irks me more than it should. They weren't able to do the bubbles because the original cartoon, they had to send the print overseas to China for them to do the bubbles. I don't think China's going to be giving us any bubbles anytime soon. Just saying.
I mean, is there not anybody stateside who knows how to do bubbles?
Sure. Trying to make a government trade joke, but oh well. So we're gonna put Little Mermaid. So for this, I would actually put Little Mermaid above Jungle Book. I don't know if I'd put Little Mermaid above Cruella. I mean, recency bias, yes, I kind of want to put it above Cruella. I connect more with Little Mermaid. The child in me connects more with Little Mermaid than I do as Cruella. But
yeah, no, we can't put it over Cruella. Everybody pretty much unanimously agreed that Cruella is.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
nothing goes above Cruella at this point.
I would put it over Jungle Book though.
I would put it over Jungle Book too, just because I also put Jungle Book in A, but that I did have Cinderella in S tier between Cruella and Little Mermaid. So
that's really the only one I was wanting to argue with. Is I want Little Mermaid to be S tier and at least over Jungle Book because I like Little Mermaid more than Jungle Book. So sure. Now we have the problem of we have 4 of these tiers that have 3. So one of these tiers needs to lose its third, and B needs to have 2 in it.
I mean, I think the easy move here is you just move Maleficent up to B.
Is that what we want to do?
But then it just comes down to, do we want to move anything else around? Me personally, I would bump Aladdin up to B, but you're not going to want to do that.
I don't want to do that.
But Aladdin and Maleficent are both in your F tier, so one of your F tiers is potentially getting bumped up here because I would not move Mulan out of C.
I'm more open to moving Maleficent up to B than. I mean, I would like to move. I would rather move Mulan up to B, but yeah, I would rather just move Maleficent up
because I'm in a position right now where both Maleficent and Aladdin are higher on my list than C tier, and Mulan is not. So I can't argue for Mulan moving up, and my 2 movies that are not in the C tier not moving up.
There is also the possibility of dropping Jungle Book down, which would drop 101 Dalmatians into B.
Well, then
and then you keep C, D, and F exactly as they are right now. So which one do you want? Which one do we want to deal with more? Moving essentially Maleficent up to B, or dropping Jungle Book down to A, which will put 101 Dalmatians down to B?
I think the thing that makes the most sense is moving Maleficent up to B, because I think rounding out this list with 3 in S tier and 3 in D and 3 in F, I feel like makes the most sense for the Disney live action remake list.
At least if we're wanting to try to stay somewhat positive about this too.
And be fair. Yeah, and be fair.
Yeah.
Like, there are ultimately at the end of this, we all jokes aside that we've been making this entire time. Obviously, we can tell we talked praise about Cruella. We talked praise about Little Mermaid and Jungle Book. We even talked praise about some of these other movies in the A tier as well. There are good live action remakes. They did actually do a good job with some of these movies, and some of them do deserve to be up there. And the S tier does deserve to have 3 movies in it. Even if we made the joke that something's got to go in S, well, of course, because there are actually movies that do deserve to go there. So I think this as a rounded out list makes the most sense for this, because there are a handful that just aren't great, and they're all down there in D and F. And
would anyone entertain an argument of moving Lady and the Tramp up to C and giving C3 PO?
That was horrible.
It was. I'm sorry.
That was awful. Again. At what point in your brain,
right as the 3 was coming out, like, oh, let's add a PO to this just to turn a phrase.
Oh, okay. So it was literally so you didn't have time to think about it first.
No, not really.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. No, I think honestly,
everyone's like, no. Leave D and F alone.
Okay. It might just be that I am one of the few people that enjoyed Aladdin more than some others did. I know a lot of people actually did enjoy that adaptation, but I would want to move Aladdin as high as possible, which in this case would be in front of Mulan. But outside of that small little potentially nitpicky change, I feel like this list feels pretty fair about where it's at. Maybe I would move Maleficent over Beauty and the Beast, but again, I think for B and C, just switching those movies around might be a little nitpicky.
So we're pretty much good with where everything's at right now, then.
Yeah, I think. I mean, also, actually, no. You know what? I would move Dumbo over Lady and the Tramp myself. That's the other thing I would do too.
Yeah.
But I think
that's nit. Also,
I think ultimately, like, when it comes down to it, this just might be the list as is.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we'll do it from there. Before we remove this, so Nerd sent in the Streamlabs at the beginning with his ranking. So keep in mind, Nerd did this ranking before we set up the rules. So Nerd has S, 101 Dalmatians. A was Cruella, Aladdin, Cinderella. B is Little Mermaid, Peter Pan and Wendy. He included Pete's Dragon and Jungle Book in B. C was Maleficent and Lady and the Tramp. D was Beauty and the Beast, Alice in Wonderland, and Dumbo. And then F is Lion King, Mulan, and Pinocchio. You got 2 out of the 3 of F. So good job, Nerd. Nerd was just trying to sway everyone in the chat the entire time to get his list.
That would be actually kind of intriguing if people want to, in future Marquees, Streamlabs in their rankings, or if they want to Streamlabs in a prediction of where they think the rankings are going to end up at the end of the whole thing. We can't give away a prize for anyone who's closest, unless we can think of one at some point. But maybe you get a hearty congrats if you're the closest person. That could be an interesting way to take the Marquee in the future.
I haven't had a hearty congrats in a while.
I'm just thinking out loud. I think that would be kind of fun.
Anyways, so again, I'm gonna clean up this board and I'll post it on Twitter tomorrow. Feel free to respond, reply, share, so everyone else can see, and then we can get that PJ Campbell and PLD opinion of telling us how bad our opinions are, because I just so desperately need those. I love when
dare y'all put Aladdin that low. I didn't want to.
Yeah. That's usually the way that goes. Let's go ahead and pack up this marquee real quick, and then we'll talk about what's coming out next month. You're gonna love this. Carl, hit it. Carl's fast tonight. Anyways, so that was the marquee for tonight. Thanks to everyone who was here. Next month, we actually have that date, right? Yeah, because it's based on the movie.
Yep.
I guess we're looking at, is it June 30th?
June 30th?
Yes.
Yeah, based on when the movie comes out.
So June 30th, Friday, June 30th, we will be returning to the marquee. This is going to be in celebration of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which, according to the reviews, I don't know if we should be celebrating yet, but we'll see. Anyways, in celebration of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, we will be tier ranking Harrison Ford sci-fi and action movies.
Yeah.
We have to narrow this one down because go figure, Harrison Ford's in a shit ton of movies.
A long career that man Ford.
Yes. So we spent a whole lot of time trying to figure out exactly how we want to narrow this down. Since he's in an action adventure movie, it just made sense to add to tier rank his action adventure. And then we also saw we could probably sprinkle in some of the sci-fi action adventure. So which means, yes, we will be talking about some Star Wars and some Indiana Jones and some Blade Runner and who knows. Yeah, so there is going to be some fun to be had with that. As of right now, we do have some guests lined up for it. I'm not going to say who the guests are, but they're going to be fun guests. And if you are someone who is in the space that we are a part of, if you're a part of the community that we have been a part of for quite a while, you might know who else in our community just loves talking about Harrison Ford. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
I actually will add on a little bit of this. Expect a longer show than tonight.
It's going to be very long, and it's going to be very funny. We're going to have a good time.
It's going to be worth you clearing out your calendar for this one.
Yes. So stay tuned. June 30th. Going to have a lot of fun on the marquee. Yeah, gonna have a whole lot of fun. Anyways, so that's gonna do it for the marquee tonight. Real quick, anything else coming up that we want to talk about?
Nope.
I don't know of anything else other than I'm gonna
movies.
Yeah,
stay tuned. We got reviews and out of theater reactions galore coming up. June is a packed month.
Yes, June is very packed for movies. I think this next week we've got Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yep.
Or Across the Spider-Verse coming up this next week. I know I went to a press screening for The Boogeyman. I will probably be releasing that review on Wednesday before Tagline goes live. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be short. Just saying. And yeah, I think that's roughly about it for right now. So yeah, thank y'all for watching. Those of y'all that were here live, participating live, thank you for being here. I don't think we're going to be doing the live chat voting on the next one, just because it's going to be long.
My apologies to you guys. I know y'all might want to chime in on that one. We're not going to be able to have the time to be able to do the chat vote on this next month's marquee, but I promise you guys it's going to be entertaining enough for you to stick around anyway.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Trade off.
So thank y'all for being here live. We absolutely appreciate each and every single one of y'all being here, watching, commenting, liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, all of that fun YouTube stuff. All of that just helps us out, and we appreciate every single bit of it. So anyways, that's going to do it. If you're watching this on a replay, thank you for coming back and enjoying this 2.5 hours long, us just crapping all over Disney live action remakes. I think we were actually a lot more friendlier than that. It wasn't like a complete trash talk session. So Yeah, go watch Little Mermaid. Highly recommend it. Go watch our review. Highly recommend that as well. Not biased at all whatsoever. Make sure you follow us at The Cinefanatics on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me personally at Robert Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and youtube.com/@RobertAdamsMLP.
And you can follow me at Chris Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, as well as twitch.tv/Chris Adams MLP.
Anyways, that's going to do it for tonight. Again, thank y'all for watching. Thank you for being here. We will see y'all on the next whatever it is we're doing. Good night.
Good night. The stars